Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session today. We really look forward to presenting to you on these exciting subjects. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us, and we really look forward to your participation. Some housekeeping rules. This is a digital contact session. This session will be recorded, so you will be able to watch it again. We are working on a Zoom platform. Please remember that your questions you can pose to us through the chat box. Load shedding and poor connectivity will definitely affect your ability to join this event. So make sure that you are at a place where you have connectivity and where load shedding will not influence you. Like I said, a recording will be made available for you and for your staff as well. And please ensure that you are on mute to contribute to an enjoyable event experience to everyone. So today the spotlight will be on the industry, insights into consumer centricity and also to advocacy. We really look forward to this session and to present to you. We also want to make a couple of announcements. We have 3 other sessions in August. On the 11th of August, we've got our Women's Month webinar. On the 18th of August, we have a general member meeting. I want to really motivate members to come to this meeting, as this is really, really important to attend, just to get an overall update of what's happening in the industry. On the 6th of September, we will have a digital contact session that focuses on technology, payments, and data. Our sponsors for our digital contact sessions are ACPAS, African Unity, ALPS, ASPIS, NewPay and Delta, Bankingly, Experian, Groups R Us, Micamax, Realpay, SureCard, Sure Systems, TransUnion, and Universal Insurance Administrators. And during these sessions, you will see updates on them as well. We also want to thank them for their support. Without them, this would not have been possible. So let's go into the program. So we will have a look at a Realpay advertisement, a SureCard video, and then a SureCard presentation by Brad Cope. Then a presentation by Henny and myself. Henny is the CEO of the MFSA. Then we will obviously do a fun element, so make sure that you are there for the fun element. And then we will have an informative presentation on a consumer-centric approach, why it is important in your business and why you have to focus on it. We will then have a Q&A session at the end. Please complete our survey, and then we will close out the day. So let's look at the Realpay advertisement. Realpay is a digital payment solution, and they improve your customer payments and cash flow. They are easy, secure, web-based payment systems, and they are in a couple of African countries. This is their details. You can also contact them, and you can visit their website, realpay.co.za, and you can email them at sales@realpay.co.za. Right, thank you so much for your participation. So next up, let's have a look at the SureCard video.
We pride ourselves on knowing who our clients are and what they value most. That's why at SureCard, we never disregard your unique brand, but rather we strive to complement and elevate it. Allow us to accentuate your business with a dash of color and offer your clients a fully fledged bank account that not only adds value to your current service offering, but enriches their banking experiences. Together, we provide your clients with more than just a cash card. With an affordable SureCard, they can use any ATM across the country, perform low-cost point-of-sale transactions with the latest tap-and-go functionality, all whilst receiving quality client service and support. With our powerful all-in-one products and platforms, you don't need to send your clients to a potential competitor for issuing bank account statements. Instead, gain their trust and strengthen your relationships by providing a variety of instant banking services right at your branch. Even better, SureCard offers enticing benefits that make it easier for your customers to switch, including free mobile banking for checking balances, paying beneficiaries, buying airtime or electricity, and so much more. Cardholders also receive a free grocery coupon booklet with savings up to the value of 400 Rand. And if you wish to include it, funeral cover for the cardholder. We take pride in your work and are committed to your success. Lower your risk, increase your income, and expand your brand potential. Let us add color to your life. Contact us today.
Right, thank you very much for that video. And up next, we will have a presentation by Brad Cope. Welcome, Brad. I can't hear you, Brad. Sorry, because you're not on mute, but I can't hear you. Also not now. No, I can't hear anything. Still nothing. And now? Brad, can you try again? Okay, so now I think we should test the sound and everything with Brad again, because I can't hear him. And then we can maybe do his presentation after me and Henny's presentation. Okay, so what I'm then going to do is I'm going to switch over to the presentation with me and Henny Ferreira, and we will be giving you an update on advocacy and the importance of advocacy. So as you can see, I am now moving over to the advocacy role. So let me give you a short introduction about Henny. Henny is the CEO of MFSA. He has worked with MFSA since 2003. He has an honours in sociology in the University of Stellenbosch and also an MBA. He was part of the Boulder program. He's got a program in strategic leadership that he did. And also he's a certified director in the Institute of Directors. Then myself, I'm the general manager at the MFSA. I've been working at the MFSA since 2010, so also part of the furniture. I have a journalism degree. I did a course in leading and coaching for superior results. I did a program for management development through UCT. I did the executive development program through GIPS, and I'm also a qualified debt counselor. So let's go into the presentation. Industry Insights by me and Henny. I'm going to give you a short overview about the association if you are unsure what we do, but we are the trusted voice of responsible microfinanciers. And this is a very important point. We represent our members where they cannot represent themselves, and we are the voice for our members. So if there's ever any concerns about what's happening in the industry, that's where the association comes in. MFSA has positioned ourselves to legitimately act as a voice for our members since 1996. So we have been in the industry for very long, and we've represented our members for very long. And we see the changes in the industry, we see what's happening within the industry, and this is where we act on behalf of our members. And that is why it is important for all of our members to belong to the association, because the more members we have, the louder our voice is. Our vision and values to ensure a sustainable microfinance industry. So sustainability is very important to the association. Sustainability of our members, of all credit providers, and also of consumers. And that is why we do what we do. We are professional and ethical. We care about our members, their clients, the society, and the natural environment. Our positioning, we are there to protect, promote, and present our members. So we protect our members, we promote legal credit with legal credit providers, and we represent our members in different industry forums. And that's how we position ourselves to make sure that we are the voice of microfinanciers. Our mission is continuous advocacy, meaningful member interaction, and people and market development. And as you can see, today we are doing all three of those. We are advocating, we are telling you how we are advocating, we've got meaningful member interaction, and we are also developing our people. We are developing our credit providers and also our consumers. This approach ensures that benefits of scale can be achieved and members are protected from victimization. And this is why there is an association. An association is there to protect our members because sometimes things happen. You want to bring it under the regulator's attention, but you are just too scared of victimization. That's where the association steps in and we represent our members. We are dealing with a number of matters with the NCR where we are the voice of our members. It is important for us to step in to talk on behalf of our members, specifically if it is industry-related matters. The association also has 5 different strategic focus areas. And everything we do is based on these areas. The one is advocacy, the other one is governance and leadership, operational efficiency, our members, and a consumer-centric approach. All of these strategic focus areas receive a lot of attention from the association. We want to make sure that we advocate, we talk on your behalf, we've got a good leadership team, we are operationally efficient, we do courses like these and information sessions like these, we represent our members, we grow our members, and we also have a consumer-centric approach. So let's talk a little bit about our role and who is at the MFSA table. As you can see in the background, I'm sitting at a table, and we want to know who is at our MFSA table. Who are we talking to? Who are we representing? Why are we doing it? And why it is important to belong to the association. This is our board of directors. Pakim Pashlele is our chairperson, Mariette Igner, our vice chairperson, Sophie Kleovulu, our vice chairperson, and Naresh Gopichand is our treasurer. We also have Henny Ferreira, our CEO, Magoutan Pashlele, David Hong, Francis Fraser, Israel Noko, Mark Seymour, and Okkert Steenkamp. Other members, this is our executive committee. As you can see, the vice chairpersons and the chairpersons on that committee together with me and Henny. And this is our financial committee. This is where Doreen Rosa, she is our accountant, also steps in. Our board of directors representation is 73% credit providers. Now, this is a very important approach for me. We have people that has got skin in the game that is on our board. So the difficulties that you are facing on a daily basis, they are also facing. So when we are advocating for you, they are facing the same problems. They've got desktop compliance audits. They've got investigations against them. They've got POPI problems. They've got debit check problems. So when we talk about these matters, it's because we know that all of the credit providers are facing the same problems. We have big members, we've got small members, so it's really a good representation when looking at our board of directors. Henny, I'm going to hand over to you now to talk a little bit about political intelligence.
Thank you, Leonie. Let's get the technology going. So Leonie, if you say you're part of the furniture, then I wonder what people say of me. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, a great word of welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to be here today and also to engage. The subject we're dealing with today is different from what you've been doing, and we hope that we will be able to do it in such a way that you actually can feel the benefit. I'm going to pick up on a couple of themes today, and I hope that you will be able to also bring it together. First of all is that we've picked up on the theme of table, and we say if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. We have said this many times, and we will continue to say that, and we would also demonstrate that today with what we're dealing. But in terms of the world, and I'm going to zoom in today on political intelligence. It's not something we talk about all the time and much, but it is an important element for us to deal with you as members. And we can't just splash it out because all of this happens within a context. So the next, as we have been using the table as a key thought, the second one is P in this case for politics. But the P also means policy, practicalities, parliament, power, positioning. We're even going to talk about the polls that's on our way in a very nearby future. So tied into that, we're also going to talk, so now let me get my control back here. We also want to talk to you about connecting the dots. Now, this is something people say very casually and very easily. There's a lot happening in the background, which is not obvious. And if you're not tuned into this, you don't know about it. And in fact, you can be misled. And today we're just going to connect some dots for you. In no way a perfect picture. And in fact, it's a dynamic picture and sometimes also a bit of an emotional picture for people. But out in this game of politics, there's policy and power, and there's political parties, which is an emotional subject, and there's the continuous game of positioning yourself on the one hand, but also the practicalities that we have to manage. I'm not sure why this thing is not working along there we are. An important element right now, which we need to understand in everything that we are doing, is that politically, the next election is somewhere in May or somewhere in 2024. We're saying loosely May 2024. This is impacting massively on the country as we speak. And in politics, this is actually quite a short time. So understand that we are running up to an election and that we are required to prepare for that election. Guys, I'm just battling to get my things did work this morning. So the question is, who is at the table? Now, when we talk about these things, the table has many players. We are not the only player at this table. Guys, I'm really battling. Sunay, I need some help here. I don't know, there you are. The people at the table are many. It is not just the MFSA. I think one of the fallacies, or one of the things people would like to believe, is that our problems and our policies and our objectives are the only ones. That is not the case. In terms of the world of politics, you are working with and against other people. Those include associations, regulators, policymakers, social influencers, even the competition. I mean, if you are this morning on the PSSF work group, you will see that one of the banks is not doing well. It's impacting on everybody. So there is an understanding, which is important, that there are many people at the table. Now, so who is at this table? We talk about this table in terms of practicalities. Now, there is a parliament, there's a parliamentary program, issues that's practical we have to deal with. There's the upcoming poll, there are political parties, there's the power and politics, and there's also policy development. All of this then connects in a very, very particular way. So now you'll have to assist me here. Give me the next slide, please. I want to talk to you very briefly about Parliament. In terms of the parliamentary situation, we need to remind ourselves that we had a very grandiose building in Cape Town, and that at the end of last year, this building was destroyed. That is important in that it has major impact in terms of how things are happening politically. First of all, the personnel, the staff that runs this institution are affected. The situation around what caused this and the forensics is ongoing. It has not been resolved. Staff is also working in a hybrid format, some of that on the back of COVID. The last 3 cabinet meetings have been taking place digitally. In fact, some ministers have called physical meetings and people simply just dialed in. And in the background, there's also a motion by the EFF that Parliament needs to be moved away from Cape Town, part of their agenda, which is not easy because it will require a change to the Constitution. And then in terms of bringing this building back in one form or another, there's also the issue of who's going to be paying for that. What is important for you as an MFSA member who plays in the industry to understand is that there is roughly 14 weeks left in terms of this year for parliamentary work. There are 69 bills on the table, which landed there in different ways and fashion, and it is a massive amount of work to be done. The final program for the rest of this year, we will receive somewhere between the 16th and the 18th of August, but we do not expect major changes. The important point to make is that as things stand right now, there is nothing in the program or on the program pertaining to the National Credit Act. And the importance of that, I will demonstrate to you a little bit later. Once again, understand and recognize and prepare yourself for an environment where we are working up to a poll, to an election, somewhere in 2024, and we're putting a point down and saying it's May. It could be 2 or 3 months later. It's also important that when we work on this, we must understand that political parties is involved. Many of us as business people don't like to talk about politics, but there are important elements there, and all the political parties have a stake. In terms of the center of politics in South Africa at the moment, the ruling party is the ANC, and the Thule House is symbolic of the control which the Thule House has. At the moment, the Thule House and the ANC is not in a good position. Things are not as organized and as smooth as they've been historically. And the reason for the house not being as orderly and as in order, you can speculate at your own time. I'm stating this simply as a fact so that we can plan and prepare. In the ANC, the following people are at the top table: the president, the deputy president, Minister Gwede Mantashe, Paul Mashatile, Ace Magashule, and Jesse Duarte. To make things more complicated, there are issues around Ace Magashule. You are aware of those. I'm not going to go into that. And then last weekend, we had the passing away of Jesse Duarte. That leaves the top party in a very sensitive position. Over and above that, the Pala, another P, politics is playing out around the president. Internationally, I can say to you this is making headlines, and is maybe in South Africa, it is not as high as we, but maybe we don't agree on where it fits, but abroad it is making serious noises about what is going on here. And we need to understand that also then impacts, again, on how the future plays out and what the political priorities are. The next important element that we need to get through is that politics at one stage was divided pro and anti Ramaphosa or Zuma. That has developed, and there are new thoughts out there. So the fact that you are anti-Zuma doesn't make you pro-Ramaphosa. And I explain these things so that we can understand that there are new schools of thought coming in, and there's new dynamics developing, and those things also impact on ultimately what we will see as members. This I put in is the famous Cornelius doing a one-man protest on Saturday and Sunday at Nazareth, and it just demonstrates another level of the politics that's playing out there, and which we need to take note of. Critical, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the MFSA. Our minister, the minister of the DTIC, is Minister Patel. Minister Patel is one minister who's been appointed by the president. He was not elected, and he has a very, very particular task and a very, very particular profile playing out right now, which makes him unique, very responsible, and I can also say a very busy man. So first, in terms of the world where you have to connect dots here, he comes from a very, very strong labor background. He still has labor connections, and so has the president. And on top of that, he is saddled with the responsibility, together with other people, to work on the reconstruction and the economic fixing following the pandemic. You also need to know that he works with associations, and that there are other associations which currently have big issues which they have to deal with. The news about the poultry guys, that has been going on in the background for a very, very long time. It did surface over the weekend, but it demonstrates that this minister has to deal with everything from credit to chicken. And some people would say that is foul play, but have that understanding as well in terms of the portfolio which this minister has to handle. At the same time, we are all aware of the devastating effects that Eskom situation is having on our country, and he is also part of the work groups who, over and above the Eskom problem, needs to pay attention to this, and clearly the unions also has much to say in terms of this situation. Finally, back to the IEC, the politics of power has become more than just social and economic power. The physical supply of power in this country has become a political issue, and we need to understand that whatever we deal with and what determines priorities, that will continue to do so as we work through various issues and as we engage. So in terms of going forward then briefly, ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves now in the run-up to the December 22 election of the elective conference of the ANC. We will see a lot of work being happened in producing an election manifesto. But at policy level, the ANC has not changed. It is very much still on the policies where it were. Lots of noise, lots of narrative, but fundamentally, the party is still saying that they are what they've been, and that has major impact in terms of what we believe and how we have to position ourselves strategically. So a couple of rumors out there and responses to that. One is there's constantly people saying that the cabinet will be reshuffled. The fact is the president has got the right to at any point in time reshuffle the cabinet. He can do so whenever he chooses to do so, and he can do so for whatever reason he chooses to do so. Secondly, the re-election of the president will be determined by the December conference. You can obviously expect massive politicking in the run-up to that. There are those who would want to have him out, but in ANC tradition, two-term president is what would be preferred. The future role of Minister Patel is, in a way, determined by the above two, but at this point in time, the overall evaluation of his department is certainly not that there's a performance issue that they would want to remove him. And in fact, we have no information to that extent at this point in time. So we have a minister which we have, and we have to work with him. And then very important, all of this which I've described to you now does play into the parliamentary priorities. It may be, and I say this with great caution, that credit at some point, and credit legislation at some point, becomes a populist item and gets brought back into the narrative, and that then may give us issues which we will have to deal with. But as things stand objectively now, there is no such situation. We do, however, put this in red because the situation can change literally overnight.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm going to terminate. Leonie is going to continue, and hopefully you can do better with your control than I can do, Leonie, and I'll join you in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Henny. I think that was very, very informative. And just to give you an industry update of, what is happening, how do we put advocacy into play? I think what is concerning, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, the fact that the National Credit Act is not receiving the attention that it should achieve. So in some instances, it is a good thing, and in some instances, it's not a good thing. But let's look at who is at the table, who's at our table. If I sit in my daily meetings with the NCR, with the Credit Ombuds, and with our members, who are we representing? It's our members, other associations, regulators, government departments, the political domain, public in general, civil society, and the media. So when we do advocacy and when we play our role, we have to take all of these stakeholders into consideration. These relationships are very, very important because we want to change the way that people see us. Usually it was always the loan sharks, the illegal market, but we are reputable and professional credit providers. And that is the message that we have to get out there. This is also the other bodies that we deal with on a daily basis. We've got collaboration with the Credit Onboard. We work with the DTI. I'm on the Bank CETA board. We have relationships with the National Housing Finance Corporation, the Association for Debt Recovery Agents, the National Credit Regulator. Now, this is a very, very interesting relationship, but I will get to that. The South African Reserve Bank, PIB, payment systems. So a number of payment stakeholders as well, because debit check caused a lot of chaos. It caused a lot of change. And that's why our representation there is very, very important. The Banking Association, the CBA, SACRA focusing a lot on data, and all of these relationships we deal with on a daily basis. We maintain these relationships, and we make sure that your voice is heard on these specific forums. Where and how do we represent? So we get a question is, why are we not on all of the boards of all of these relationships? Sometimes it is better to work a little bit behind the scenes. You don't always want to be in the forefront, but you want to do the advocating and the lobbying at the back end. But let's look at our representation that is of crucial importance. Henny is a lot, he's involved at the payments. So PSSF, AC, Payments Council, Payments Policy and Regulatory Council, MPS, also in NISC and CIEF that deals with regulations, and the PIB design team. I do the representation at the Bank CETA, the National Consumer Financial Education Committee, FSTC, NISC, and CIF. NISC is focusing on credit and the industry. CIF is an NCR body that focuses a lot more on National Credit Act, but specifically on debt counseling. But there's also some issues with that representation. Then we have David, he does representation on the MFSA board and also your representative at the PSSF. But what's up for discussion? Because I think that is where the association should start changing the conversation. What is up for discussion? What is being discussed? So the review of the National Payment Systems Act is up for discussion everywhere. It has been and it always will be. National Credit Act regulations, the changes that they want to implement, the changes that they are talking about, the court cases that are ongoing, the studies that are ongoing, positioning of debt intervention. Is this something that they are going to pursue, or is it something that they will leave out? As you can see, our minister is not very interested in focusing and pursuing debt intervention at this stage, and it suits us. The review of rates and fees regulations. This is where it doesn't suit us. So as I say, in some cases a win, in some cases a lose. We want them to review the rates and fees regulations. That's why we also did a study on that. Reviewing of the credit life regulations, the NCR has actually now started their own impact assessment to see, what is happening there, how does it influence the credit providers and the influence it has on the consumers. Poppy is huge, guys. I cannot begin to explain how often we talk about the Protection of Personal Information Act. SACRA, the MOA with the NCR, Credit Onboard and the MOA they have with the NCR, and also the NHFC, National Housing, that we are signing an MOU with in order to assist our members to bring something new to the table. Policy Proclamation and National Credit Act. Rates and fees review. This is very, very important to the association. This is the livelihood of the association, and that's why we are focusing a lot on that. And when we advocate on that, we are telling them, guys, we are not seeing that there is an inflationary increase. With everything that comes up, our rates stay the same. However, we tried to do an actuarial study, and it was not as successful as the association hoped it would be. But we are still going to advocate for our members and on behalf of our members for this specific case. Credit life. We have a court case specifically with regards to credit life on the matter. The NCR has now initiated their own research, their own actuarial study on credit life and the impact it has on credit providers and consumers. A number of our members make use of credit life in order to assist their loans, in order to make up some of the money. But they've definitely cut the fees. That makes it very difficult for our members to sustain the specific product development. They are also reviewing development credits. And this is important for us because we are seeing a number of new entries into this market. So the National Credit Regulator is definitely looking at that as well. They are talking about National Credit Act review, some changes they would want to make, but I don't foresee that it's going to be in the near future. And debt intervention is and was used as a political tool. When we heard debt intervention, everyone freaked out, including me. We were like, what's going to happen? They are just going to write off the debt. But when you go into the fine print, it's actually a rehabilitation program. It would take you more than 2 years, 3 years to actually write off this debt. But it was used in such a way to position the government in such a way so that when there was an election, it would be favorable towards them. So debt intervention at this stage is not being implemented. It's not even being spoken about. And I think that is a great thing. Debit check. Debit check is huge in our lives. And what happened there, a lot of abuse, consumers abused the EDO system, IDO and NIDO, and they implemented debit check to make sure that the abuse would decrease. At this stage, debit check, it created havoc in credit providers' lives. But as with any project, things, start to ease out. And we really do recommend that all of our members make sure that if they have questions and complaints, they must attend our sessions to bring this under our attention so we can advocate on your behalf. National Credit Regulator. So this is probably my most important relationship I have at this stage. I have a relationship with the Investigations Department, the Compliance Department, and the Registrations Department. Also a very good relationship with the Debt Counseling Department, and since about 2 days ago, the Communications Department. So these 5 areas are the 5 areas where we try and influence so that we can be the voice of our members. We try and talk to the Investigations Department with any areas of non-compliance, and also if there is matters that's lying with investigations to see if there's not a way in which we can settle the matter and sort it out before it goes to the tribunal. It's a very healthy relationship. We understand each other. We know, okay, here was non-compliance, let's sort it out. Or there was just a major misunderstanding. With the Registrations Department, we really try and sort out registration issues as soon as possible because it usually starts with registration. And when you don't deal with that registration issues, then it escalates to compliance, it escalates to investigations. Compliance, we also have a great relationship because Zolile deals with compliance and with registrations. So what happened with desktop compliance audits? We heard that everyone is getting desktop compliance audits. Some people are getting the second one within a month. I phoned Zolile. I said, Zolile, what's going on here? He sent me a mail. He said, no, Leonie, don't worry. You only have to do one once a year. Because we have such a good working relationship with the NCR, we are literally a phone call away where we talk to each other. So that is very important to say, guys, if you receive a desktop compliance audit or something is weird about compliance, bring it under our attention, because when we sit in these meetings, we can talk to them and we can say, this is what we are picking up. Then we also have the Communications Department. We established a good relationship now with Lebogang. We were in an interview together where we worked really well together. So it's important for us to establish these relationships in order to protect our members. I think from an operational point of view, there's a lot of good relationships, we work together well, but there's also, if we don't agree on something, we say, I don't agree, we are not going to do this, this is not what our members are about. I think on an executive level, we can definitely still work a little bit harder to establish those relationships and to make sure that before we litigate, we advocate and we talk first and we engage with the executive team. But from an advocacy point of view, I think we've got a really good established relationship with the National Credit Regulator. We sit on their forums, we engage with them in meetings, and in NISC, we also talk about the strategy. NISC is where the banks sit together and the credit providers, the short-term unsecured lenders sit together, and we decide is what do we want to achieve with the NCR? What do we want to achieve in the industry? And that's where we discuss our strategy, and together we decide this is the road ahead and this is exactly what we want to do. CIF specifically focuses on debt counseling. Now, the advocacy part of debt counseling with the association, it's going good with the National Credit Regulator, but the National Credit Regulator is at this stage a little bit overwhelmed, specifically with regards to their debt counseling department. So what we have decided almost, on a handshake basis is if there's issues with regards to debt counseling, bring it to the association and the association will take it to the NCR. So we have good relationships. We know where they have issues. They communicate that with us. And then we say, okay, how can we make their work better and make sure that we solve certain problems? And that is exactly what they did with the Credit Onboard. And that's why membership of the Credit Onboard is crucial, guys. That is like your buffer. So what the NCR did is they said that they are going to sign an MOA with a Credit Onboard. So if a consumer comes in and he complains about a specific credit provider, they immediately check the complaint and see if it is a member of the Credit Onboard as well. If the credit provider is a member of the Onboard, they refer it directly to the Onboard. And that's where you want to be, because the Credit Onboard is an impartial body. They deal with those complaints. They make sure, that both voices are heard. So if you don't know about the Credit Onboard, make sure that you do contact us and we set up a meeting with you, because you don't want your complaint to land at the NCR. Because I've seen numerous complaints. It begins as a complaint, it gets escalated to the investigations team, and now the consumers are following up on the investigations team to say, guys, where are you with this investigation? And we don't want our members to be investigated. The same with compliance. I've seen desktop compliance audits go really bad. So if there is a lot of non-compliance, specifically with regards to desktop compliance audits, some of them immediately gets referred to investigations. That's why I always say, if you get an email from the NCR, check the signature. Compliance or investigations? Compliance, orange, you're okay. Investigations, red, we need to act immediately. But we've got a good industry relationship, and we do, talk to the NCR on a daily basis. Protection of Personal Information Act. I want to highlight this a lot. We have negotiated and talked to a lot of, stakeholders and different consultants in order to assist our members, specifically on POPI. The MFSA is also using a system that is available for credit providers as well. And I want to motivate you to become compliant on POPI as soon as possible, because what I can foresee is that the NCR is possibly going to look a little bit more at POPI and at NCR regulations to see if you're not POPI compliant, you don't have an information officer, how they can enforce. So make sure that POPI compliance receives a lot of attention from our members. Make sure you have the right consultant that introduces policies, the right policies within your business, and that you do comply with the legislation. Consumer centricity. So consumer centricity is very, very important. And I don't think that we are giving it the attention that it should receive. The NCR is very focused on a consumer-centric approach. They want to make sure, specifically in these bad circumstances now, that the consumers are looked after. The association is now spending a lot of time on a consumer-centric approach. We have collaborated with the Credit Onboard, where we are talking about educating consumers who's the right credit provider. And in the end, if you have a consumer-centric approach, your business will grow. Because if your name is good, it spreads like a wildfire. We also want them to see, this is the MFSA logo, this is the NCR's logo. And if you see these logos, there's a form of comfort. So when we have these consumer-centric approaches and we do collaborate with the Credit Onboard, make sure that you read the information and that you use the information. And that's also why we have our website. Because if you log into our website, you download all of the information, you make use of the templates. It's very consumer-centric focused and compliance focused to make sure that you are compliant and do focus on the consumers.
good to have you back. Let's bring you this now. It's almost 21 years since the SA Savings Institute had declared July as the National Savings Month. But given high food and fuel prices, most people barely have enough to get through the month. FNB found that 80% of salaries are spent in the first 5 days of the month, leaving people reliant on credit. So let's discuss this now with Kabelo Teme from the Credit Onboard. Kabelo, thank you for your time and good morning to you. I mean, I just wonder if South Africans are even aware that July is National Savings Month, with everything going on and anticipated price hike this week, you know, with the blackouts, and there's so much going on in the country. How important is it now more than ever to, of course, start saving if you haven't?
Good morning, Timelo, and thank you so much for
welcome back. July is National Savings Month. This is new to me, but with the cost of living continuing to rise, this could be a hard thing to do, Faith.
Absolutely. Well, the fuel price goes up every month. The food basket cost has increased drastically. And to top it all off, municipal fees have just gone up this month. So to speak to us more about exactly how do we save in these challenging economic times, we've got Kabelo Teme from the Credit Ombudsman. Kabelo, thank you so much for your time this morning. A very good morning to you. Look, July is Savings Month. I think more than anything else, South Africans would also like to know, how do we start saving in the current economic climate with the realities that we're facing on a daily basis?
Good morning, Faith.
I was privy to a recent webinar with the Credit Onboard, where there was engagement with the Microfinance South Africa, the MFSA, where I witnessed the MFSA encouraging the members to join the Credit Onboard. This is an important step in complying to Section 2113 of the FSR Act, which compels all financial institutions providing financial products and financial services to belong to a recognized industry ombud scheme. I'm aware that the Credit Ombud is in discussion with the MFSA on how they will deal with small credit providers, and there are creative solutions in the making. So watch this space.
So as you can see, because of our collaboration with the Credit Onboard, we are getting a lot more media exposure. We are focusing on educating consumers and, you know, telling them that this is the importance of belonging to an association and belonging to the Credit Onboard. And if you have, you know, questions, talking to credit providers. So our collaboration with the Credit Onboard is giving the association so much exposure to get the right message out there. And this is due to the advocacy that's taking place behind the scenes. We were also on Yilongelo Laku. So that was a TV show that I appeared on Tuesday night. And I'm going to show you some snippets of that, and also the way in which we work together with the NCR.
Okay, welcome back to our final segment. Sisakhuluma lana ngama payday loans nokuthi ke iziphi izinto ekumele uzazi wena futhi uziqaphele njengwe consumer ukuze phela ungazithola usulahlekelwe imali ne-information. My guest today, the lovely Miss Lebohang Selebe from the National Credit Regulator, as well as the lovely Miss Leone van Pletsen from Microfinance South Africa. Now, before I go to Leone Lebohang, I know that you were saying ukuthi nani, but you give accreditation kanjani, but can't you then withhold ukuthi ubanikeze license up until you verified i-office labo ukuthi they are actually going to be doing what they say they are doing? Make it more difficult for the illegal ones to just trade.
I mean, we can check, but currently we don't check our office prior. We check ukuthi are your documents in order.
Okay.
What is required, the criminal
information
record. Yes, as per the act, that's what we are checking. Then ukuthi are your offices, you want to give us an address. Then if we come to do a monitoring exercise, then we will come to the address where the one that you gave us.
And I suppose it's a surprise visit, right? You're not going to tell me and arrange like I'm coming next week.
We arrange in most cases, especially for monitoring, because remember,
then they're gonna put the fake documents there in front of you so that you just go and give them a blue tick.
Not really, because you don't know what we're looking for. Where we don't tell you, it's with regards to our inspections from our investigation side. Those are the guys who come and check ukuthi is there any contravention? Are you withholding people's cards? And with those ones, usually we do them with in conjunction with the police, because when we find you with a card or EID document, it's a criminal offense. Somar, they take you, Amapoisa, they take you in because they arrest you. So those ones you won't know about because they don't tell you. But then these other ones, because they need to make sure you are there as well. The relevant person is there.
I still prefer surprise visits. Very quickly, Leonie, we are on our last leg. Breaching the MFSA policies and ethics, what are the repercussions there? What do you do?
You have to be registered with the NCR to become an MFSA member. We do not associate ourselves with illegal credit providers, and you have to comply with the National Credit Act and with the Industry Code of Conduct. So if there is any contraventions, we have a disciplinary committee which we look at, and then we act accordingly.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is where we're going to have to leave it today. Mbugeli, those were my ladies today. Ms. Lebohang Celebi from the National Credit Regulator, alongside Ms. Leonie van Pletzen from MFSA Microfinance.
So that's where the association also comes in, and we do our representation. We are getting a lot of media coverage. And what we specifically did with that session, it was an hour session to say that association with the NCR and the MFSA is very, very important. And that when consumers see the MFSA's logo and the NCR's logo, they can have a form of comfort. We will send you the whole session's insert so you can listen to the other questions as well, because it was a live interview with consumers phoning in as well. Our future focus will be on partnerships, collaboration, transformation, financial inclusion, more consumer centricity, digitalization, and modernization. These are the focus areas specifically with regards to advocacy that the association will be focusing on.
Thank you, Leonie, and thank you for the work in the background, and I think also connecting the dots very, very nicely. Ladies and gentlemen, I look at the numbers, and we have over 120 people in the room, and probably 2 to 3 people per screen, and this is going to go out on YouTube, etc. And in our lives as business people, we would say, why all of this politics? But I think Leonie has just demonstrated how these things do come together, and this is really important for us to understand it. And as business people, the French president said, politics is too important to leave to politicians. This is a crucial statement, and I'm going to now display and read for you a statement that was made at the end of this weekend's conference. And I was briefed yesterday, and we had extensive discussions with our lobbyists. But the statement reads, and just bear with it and sit back and process it. As the vanguard organization of the National Democratic Revolution, the ANC has an obligation to ensure economic transformation includes the people's popular control over vital sectors of the economy, while ensuring the continual strengthening of the state sector in mining, heavy industry, banks, and other monopoly industries. Therefore, the ANC's macroeconomic policy framework, as proposed in the 54th conference, must define the general parameters of economic transformation and activity. Now, I'm asking you as business people to look at that statement, understand that it comes from a political perspective, and look at it objectively and understand the signals that is coming through to business, not just the microfinance industry, and that is part of what we do. So when we position the MFSA, next slide please, Sunay. When we position the MFSA, we do so because, yes, we want to protect our members' interest, our members' consumers, because we don't want them in the hands of the illegal market. We want to promote what we do and what you do, and we want to continue to present you in a very, very dynamic and a complicated environment, South Africa right now. We're a South African organization. We don't work globally in terms of representation. So, for you as a member, it is critical that you block out the noise. There are lots of fake news going around. There's a lot of stories that is made up, sitting having coffee, making a braai, and creating all sorts of conspiracy theories. The successful businesses are the ones where the guys focus on their core business, where obviously they engage with other players to have a bigger understanding, but you don't get distracted by what I want to call rumor, fake news, and sometimes just plain rubbish. Having said that, it is very important that we do remain alert. This world is one where dog eats dog. I need to say that to you. Politics is not a clean game. We work with other associations and other regulators. On some things we agree, and on other things we don't agree. And also very important, I fairly regularly at one stage, less so today, get people phone me from, say, a deep rural area, and say, I'm going to go to the local newspaper. The problem is that the local newspaper is also linked to big media. Big media is not going to put out a story which suits you. It will make a story which is sensational and which will generally not be to your benefit and probably be to the detriment of the industry, trying to promote some other agenda. So really, it is important that you engage on your problem areas formally, that we understand what can we change and what can we not change. It is crucial, again, that we remind ourselves of this statement which says, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And we really say that it's critical that you must be at the table, at the MFSA table. So from our side, we work with professional lobbyists who work throughout the continent. We've been doing so for a very long time. We did meet some of them last year. From where we stand, we are extremely present. We are very, very well aware of what's happening politically. We focus and scrutinize to pick up areas which may impact on our sector. We don't just arrive for every possible fight out there. And let me say that we are not into the street fighting game. We go about our engagements and our fights, if you want to use that word, professionally. And ladies and gentlemen, we are as well prepared as you can be for whatever comes out. And should something foreign or a crisis appear, we will respond to that. The current environment, as we have said, is not conducive for the politicians to focus that much on our sector, but it may change overnight. So from my side, guys, when we move around, whether it's digitally, whether it is in TV studios, whether it's phone calls to people in other places of the country or other associations or even other places in the world, we do so representing you. When we are at the table, you are at the table. And yes, one of the important tables for us is this table where we're engaging with you today. So thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for your support of the association, which is your association. And thank you for engaging today. On that note, thank you, Leonie, and thank you for working. It's pleasant.
Yes. Thank you, Henny. It was nice having you, and thank you for our audience for listening. I think now we are going to do a sure card presentation by Brad Tuck. Let's try again. Brad, welcome.
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me now.
We can hear you.
Thank you, Leonie. Thank you, Henny, and thanks to the MFSA for the opportunity. And I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible. I assume that we might just be running out of time. But us from SureCard/Amber, our theme for this year is to add color to your life and thereby your business. So my name is Brad. I'm the Business Development Manager for Amber and SureCard. And if you wish, I'm going to continue with this anyway and try and keep it brief. For SureCard this year and Amber, we want to try and revive the business and the brand. And by doing that is creating opportunities for our card issuers. It just gives more positioning in the market to achieve the current branding products and services where we have way we have been doing it for the past couple of years. I think it just gives more core value to your client base in any way, but I'm going to get to that right now. This is just a brief overview of where we stand at SureCard. These are our current providers across the country. And then I'm going to get straight into it. Our card or our product is not just a cash card. It's a full-fledged banking account, ladies and gentlemen. And what we offer is more than just a card itself. At Realpay, it gives the ability to the card holders to buy electricity, check their balances. In doing that, you can also pay the loans into the bank accounts. Better transactional limits, tap on the Go EMV card for POS devices, and also, which also in a matter helps with social distancing, and then obviously instant transfer of the loans with and in collaboration with our partners, whereby the loans can be paid directly to the card holder, and the funds are immediately available. So to simplify it, there's no need to send your client away to another bank. I think the essence of it all is to ensure that there's a face-to-face relationship with your client. In doing that, I'll go briefly over it in our next slide. It also eliminates risk for the card issuer. It gives you direct access to our platform. You cut away the other banks instantly, in my opinion, because you'll be able to assist the clients directly, build better relationship with your client base. The card issuers can choose between 4 types of products. SASSA grants can also be paid into the accounts, and then obviously optional funeral cover that they can choose from if they wish to do so. So this is our issuing or management platform. It's web-based, where you are able to log in. We give certain functionalities to the card issuer, either management or issuing or just a general administration. And that's what we do on the issuing side. In conjunction with that, we also have our Amber agent, where it makes life a lot easier for you. If you've got agents out there, they have the ability to open a home. So in other words, if you have one guy in Cape Town and one guy in Durban, and he is from your company and you've got multiple branches, you have the ability to open an account there and then using the agent app. Obviously, you can ask questions about this later, but I think it's a very good working model and we've tested it. It's fantastic. So how do you earn, or what do you get back from us? So for the card issuer, we've decided to add a reward system to reach out to our card issuers. What we effectively also thought about is making it easier for not just the card issuer, but for the client and for the staff member. But in doing that, the card issuer has 3 different types of options that he can choose from, which is SureCard with a funeral benefit of 5,000 Rand, or the 10,000 Rand benefit to the clients. And all that you need to do to qualify for that, and that's from a client's perspective, is opening a SureCard account, activate mobile banking, and paying the loan out to the card. Now, keep in mind, if you do that, and this is on the next slide, there are 4 core products: the SureCard Express, SureCard Classic, which is a 12 Rand monthly fee, the SureCard Savvy with a 5,000 Rand cover, SureCard Smart with 10,000 cover as well. But this is included on the monthly fee of 34 Rand. So please just go through that at a later stage if you like. So the fee requirements on these are that you can choose from for your client, depending. It either be a FICA Lite or full FICA. And as you can see there at the bottom, what the requirements are with regards to the documentation. Now, the funeral cover was added as a benefit for your clients. As soon as the loan is paid into the SureCard, the funeral cover goes active. How it will be covered, the cover amount is either 5,000 or 10,000 paid out nominated beneficiary for the card holder only, ladies and gentlemen. And should there be a need for the individual to increase or add additional benefits to his funeral policy, he needs to contact through us, and then obviously contact the provider with regards to the funeral policy. So let me just move on. Now, the benefits for the card holder. So it's a tap and go contactless environment. We provide coupons to the card issuer to the value of 400 Rand as per the video that you saw earlier. Then low account fees and obviously free mobile banking by USSD. So the mobile banking allows you to check balances, mini statements, beneficiary payments, airtime and electricity, and internal transfers on our mobile banking platform. And that is me. I hope I try and keep it short and sweet. Quite nervous, but thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much, Brad. It was very, very informative. There's the details, sales@surecard.co.za, or you can contact them at 012-810-1400. So let's get to the fun element. So let's wake everyone up again and let's say, okay, let's do this. So tonight you're going to take us to that part of the presentation. And remember, guys, your fastest finger first, and there is money to be won. So the game that we are going to play is Guess Who? Guess the actor or actress associated with the movie intro. 5 questions, 5 winners. Each winner will receive a 250 Rand Takealot voucher. The first person to answer correctly in the chat box, they will be the winner, and the winner must please email admin@mfsa.net to redeem your prize. So let's go. Who are we referring to? American actor, comedian, author, and television personality. Began her career on stage in 1983 with her one-woman show, Spook Show. Her film breakthrough came in 1985. Starred in comedy Sister Act.
We already have a winner, Marissa H.
Yes, Marissa. Congratulations. You know your stuff. Well done. It is Whoopi Goldberg. Right. The next one. One of the world's highest paid actresses, leading lady in Hollywood films, born in South Africa, became an American citizen in 2007.
Wandile.
Madile.
Wandile.
Wandile. Congratulations. Remember to email admin@mfsa.net. Let's go to the next one. South African and American actor, was born in Pretoria acting family. Roles in The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. You.
Marissa. Again.
Marissa, once again, you are going to make the association very poor. Congratulations. South African comedian, television host, actor, and political commentator. Born in Johannesburg. Hosted the late night talk show. And the winner is?
Ndalisu.
Congratulations, Trevor Noah. Wow. Protagonist of District 9, one of the head operatives of the relocation of alien prawn-like residents of District 9, known for his work in Bloodshot, The Dark Tower, and Invictus. I don't even know this one. Do we have a winner yet?
No.
Not yet. So maybe give us a clue. So now if you can type a clue in the chat box, that would be good. Let's see.
Okay,
I think
we have a winner.
Yes.
Prasheen.
Prasheen Jagana. It's Vickers van der Merwe. Congratulations, everyone. So it just shows you who watches a lot of TV and who knows their actors. Thank you for participating, everyone. Marissa, once again, thank you for your participation and getting everything right in all of our contact sessions. Right. So next, we are going to focus on consumer centricity, and we have 2 lovely speakers that are going to talk to us about this. The first one is Magauta Mpashlele. Magauta is the founder and CEO of Ituseng Credit Solutions. She's the ombudsman of Consumer Goods Council. She's the non-executive director at SAFPS. She's a board member of MFSA. She's a board member of the short-term insurance Onboard. She's got an honors degree in applied linguistics. Guys, her resume is just huge and amazing. I'm going to welcome Agouta, and I want to say thank you for talking to us specifically on the subject of customer centricity.
Thank you, Leonie, and hello to everyone. Yes, thank you to everyone. Today, I'm going to address the issue of customer centricity. As Leonie has said, I am a registered debt counselor, not proud to say so because some of my colleagues are definitely not customer centric. We are also a registered alternative dispute resolution agent with the National Credit Regulator, which means that we are able to deal with disputes between yourselves and your customers. And in that process, we are also able to identify issues where we feel credit providers are not being customer-centric. And as an Onboard as well, dealing with complaints, we can see that, you know, some businesses are not geared towards servicing their customers. Because remember, before a customer approaches an external third party, they would have tried to engage with yourselves internally, and then they get frustrated and they seek the assistance of an external party. So I always say those who don't like ADR agents, who don't like debt counselors, who don't like other third parties dealing with their customers, then it means internally you need to be customer centric. If your customer has a complaint, doesn't understand the product, is experiencing difficulties with payment, if you are dealing with them internally, your culture was a culture where you would assist your customers, my business would die. I would not have to deal with you. So it clearly shows that there are some gaps that we see in terms of customer centricity. I mean, we've seen even with the introduction of POPIA, where instead of credit providers seeking ways to assist their customers, they were actually creating more barriers. We had instances where a customer had a complaint and a third party authorized so would try and engage with the credit provider. The customer was told that they must go to a branch because the law has changed. There was no education, there was no information on how POPIA would change the internal processes and the rules of engagement with yourselves. And we had a lot of customers who were frustrated, had to get on a taxi to go to the branch because there were now issues with how information would be shared. So those are some of the examples, but yeah, we can go to the next slide. So what I'm going to deal with in the presentation, I will talk about what is customer centricity. I will talk about some insights from Stokvels because as part of the International Executive Development Program that I attended, we went to Ghana, we went to Tanzania, we went to Brazil to look at how, especially at the micro lending level, how credit providers were improving access to credit and financial inclusion. And I was also, I think 2 years ago, involved in a television program where we engaged with different types of Stokvels and interviewed them about why they were not using the financial services industry. And I think those insights are very insightful for you as credit providers who want to be competitive, who want to go into new markets, or who want to attract and retain customers. I will also talk about the benefits of customer centricity and also how you can achieve it. Next slide, please. And this is my observation, is that a lot of us who are in the financial services industry, yes, we are over-regulated. We are regulated. We have to comply with regulation. But customer centricity means going beyond legislation. So my observation is that most credit providers are stuck in a compliance tick box culture. By that, I mean, you need to ask yourself, are you stuck in a compliance tick box culture? when you do an affordability assessment, yes, you tick the boxes that you have complied with the regulation, but do you really know your customer? Do you really understand your customer? Are you selling the correct product to your customer? Because that is important, because if you sold me a product that suits my needs, it is very rare that I will default, because from the beginning, that product suited my needs. I understood it, it suited my needs, and I can afford it. So what we see happening is that we are ticking boxes. We are not training our agents. We are remunerating our agents on the basis of how many credit agreements they sign up. And that means that then they break the law, because at the end of the day, they want to make money. So the culture in the organization influences the outcomes. And generally, we need to go beyond compliance. Yes, we all need to make money, but for us to be able to make money, we have to ensure that we are customer-centric. Next slide, please. And I think, you know, all of us, we need to ask ourselves these questions. I've been in business for 9 years now, and we've never had a financial target. My guys, we have a target to assist people. So, and yeah, for 9 years, I've been able to pay salaries and pay myself. So ask yourselves these questions. Why do you have high default rates? Is it because of affordability issues? Is it because people are getting into problems? Yes, we are, and during COVID we did. But sometimes it's because you are selling the wrong products to your customer. Sometimes it's because you don't understand the financial situation, the household situation of your customer. What type of complaints are you getting? Leonie mentioned that she has to deal with the National Credit Regulator to deal with complaints against credit providers. And like I said, they go to the NCR once they have failed with you. They have called you, they have spoken to you, your complaints, people have not responded to them or have not responded properly or have just dismissed them. So, and the other issues, why are you not able to attract new and sustain and retain new customers? Why do you have a lot of complaints? Why is my company not growing? Why are you stuck? Because remember, we are all there because of our customers. So if our customers are not happy, if we are not adding value to the lives of our customers, they will not come back. Why are they going next door? Why is your competitor more successful more than you? So these are questions that you need to ask yourself and to look at your customer centricity strategy. Next slide, please. So what is customer centricity? According to Doug Leather, customer centricity is a business model that operates in an ecosystem of customers, employees, suppliers, shareholders, and the communities and organizations that they serve. So this tells us, I mean, Henny gave us a presentation on the political and economic environment. We are not operating in isolation. You are operating within certain communities. I mean, when we visited the biggest micro-lending bank in Tanzania, the CEO could tell you that I know that I have a customer in Kukursfontein, she lives in a shack, and she wants to start a little a farm, and this is what her name is, and this is what her challenges are. They were so successful and beating other micro-lending banks, because in Tanzania, you microfinance is allowed. They do get second-tier banking licenses. And I was so amazed that a CEO had been to the ground, you know, had shaken hands with his customers. He knew who they are, what their economic and socio-economic circumstances are, what their challenges are, and he was able to go back and design products and services that would address their key challenges. And how many of us do that? How many of us know our customers to that extent, or we are just running sausage machines where you are just churning numbers and you actually don't know who you are dealing with. What are the challenges in the communities that they live in? I mean, currently, if you look what's happening, for example, this week, there were my helper could not come to work because taxis in Tembisa were not operating. So if I was another employer, I would not have paid her for that day. And that would possibly mean that at the end of the month, she would not have enough money to pay her credit agreements, for example. Are you aware what is happening in the environment and how that is influencing the repayment behavior of your customers? And what are you doing about it? Do you have empathy and understanding for your customers? Or is your call center agent just going to call your customer and say, pay us, and we don't want to know what's going on? I mean, I know we are dealing with large numbers, but there is no way that you can isolate yourself from what is happening in the environment. And this definition talks to that. It talks to an ecosystem. There are different things from different angles that are influencing what will ultimately happen to your business. Thank you. Next slide. And some of the insights from the Stokvel, because this program was in the Free State, and what we were trying to do with this Stokvel TV show was to transform Stokvels from, hoarding money and using it for things that was not creating wealth. And we know that for them to be able to create wealth, they have to interact with the financial services sector, because we had Stokvels that were collecting, for example, annually 300,000 only to go and buy blankets and pots at the end of the month. So we interviewed each Stokvel to say, why are you not using the financial services industry to borrow, number one, or to invest your money? And a lot of them said, we do not trust financial institutions. So the issue of trust is very important. And we do erode the trust of our clients because we don't listen to them. We don't treat them well. When they have problems, we do not deal with them properly. They do not understand our needs. A lot of the time, I've seen also, I belong to a Stokvel, and we would try and open a bank account, and they will say, all 3 of you or 5 of you must come to the branch, and then you must sign, you must have a constitution, and the constitution must look like that. Whereas as a group, once we started trying to draft the constitution, then we had to debate certain things that were not in line with our values. Their products do not suit our needs. They want to change our value system. There are certain values that inform Stokvels, and sometimes when they try and engage with the formal services sector, they try to change. No, you cannot have, for example, when you have a funeral cover, you cannot have anyone who's 90 years old. And then they will say, but that's against our values. The purpose of this Stokvel is for us to include everybody. And when we visited Ghana, we still had institutions where we still had what you call a susi, a man collecting money every day. So when the financial services sector came to them, it didn't say change the rules of how you operate. It said to them, we can help you once you've collected your money in line with your own rules and whatever, we will then help you to transmit that money and to share it safely. So they did not try and change the structure of that community group. So, but in South Africa, you'll find that a lot of the time we want to change how these things operate, and that is why there is resistance. For example, we interviewed a Stokvel that had a funeral cover, and they said, we know about underwriting. So we said, but there's a risk. You don't have an underwriter. But they said, we know an underwriter and what an underwriter does, but we don't want to appoint one because they want us to exclude certain people and they are coming with their rules. So that tells me that the underwriters came with their existing rules and wanted to plug them into a system that they did not take time to try and understand how it operates. And that is customer centricity. You are not imposing your products on people. You are understanding what are the pain points of people. How can I help my customer to live a better life, to manage their credit, to ensure that the credit products that they have are suitable for their needs and are sustainable. And I don't give them a credit product that 2 months later, they won't be able to afford. It costs too much to travel to the bank and to credit providers, and there is too much admin involved. It is difficult to access our money, and they charge us to withdraw our money. And we lend to each other because we don't have to fill in lots of forms and providing proof of income and things like that. So I know some of these are regulatory requirements, but consumers are struggling with these things. So what are you as a credit provider doing to ensure that you can make it easy for them to be able to provide this information to you? Thank you. Next slide. So that picture is from Ghana. That is a Susu provider. And, you know, like I said, I gave an example. So what do you need to do to achieve, what does it require? To achieve customer centricity, you need a deep and authentic understanding of your customers' socio-economic, personal, and household circumstances. My company does work in the mines, and I always give this example. For example, a lot of the mine workers who become over-indebted because the credit provider did not take time to understand the life of a mine worker. The credit provider, yes, complied with affordability assessments. So if you have a miner from Lesotho, and you ask him, what is your transport costs to work? He lives in a hostel and there's a bus that picks them up from the hostel. He will say 0. But you saw that this guy gave you a passport number when he applied for credit. So what does that mean? It means his family is in Lesotho or Mozambique or whatever. It means he has to travel at some point in the year to go and see his family. But when you do your affordability assessment, you just tick your boxes and you put that he spends 5 rand on transport. But at the end of the month, the mine worker, because we sit face to face with them, which is an expensive process, but it's paid by the mine, he will say to me, I have to visit my family every quarter or at the end of the month, and it costs me 3,000 rand. That 3,000 rand has not been included in the affordability assessment because, you know, we were ticking boxes and we are okay, and that is what he disclosed, and we did not interview him. So which means month 3 after you give him credit, he cannot pay you back because, you know, customer centricity, you did not have an authentic understanding of who this person is or who this group of people are and what their unique challenges are, and sell the correct products to them. They have to transmit a lot of money to and fro to their families. Are we coming up with those products to ensure that they transmit their money safely? They don't have to get into a taxi and go to a branch and go and do a deposit and so on. And that is what we saw in other countries, Tanzania, Ghana, is that they were bringing solutions for people like that who had to transmit money to extended family and so on. They were credit providers were bringing in products that would assist with it. You need to understand their motivations and aspirations as the first step to improving customer experience and increasing value for customers and organizations. As a debt counselor, when a 25-year-old comes to me and says, I want to go under debt counseling, I'm not looking at that 8,000 rand that will get into my account and then put them into debt counseling. I ask them, what are your plans? Do you intend to get married? Do you intend to buy a house soon, a car? What career are you following? Are you going to be in the financial services industry? So if they answer yes to those questions, don't get into debt counseling, because if you're in the financial services industry, they might look at you scans if you say you are under debt counseling. If in a 2-year period you want to buy a house, you can't get under debt counseling because the thing will lock you out. So let's look at how you can change your behavior so that you can meet your aspirations as a young person. I'm not looking at that 8,000 Rand, but a lot of my colleagues do that. But if you have a customer-centric business, you are not just churning numbers. You engage with your customer, you try and understand where do they want to go. And these days with technology, if you are dealing with thousands, millions of customers, there's ways to do it. And you know, Discovery Bank is doing it. They try and understand us, what we want, and they are still coming up with mass solutions. But still, they are using intelligence to understand their customers. Next thing. The Harvard's Business Review says that the most common barrier to customer centricity is the lack of customer centricity organizational culture. What is the culture in your organization? As a CEO, as an owner, what are you telling your agents? They must just process credit as long as somebody has signed is fine and is compliant. Any other issues, don't care. At most companies, the culture remains product focused. We want to sell products and we are sales driven and we are rewarding based on commission. How many debt counseling clients can you sign on? Whether they qualify or not, whether they want it or not, whether they understand it or not, we are churning numbers. And that is not a customer-centric approach, and it applies also in credit and in any other business. To successfully implement a customer-centric strategy and operating, a company must have a culture that aligns with them and leaders who deliberately cultivate the necessary mindset and values. So that's what you train for. That's you leave certain values. Even you as yourself, as a leader in the company, you lead by example, and you make sure that the people that are in your organization live the culture. Next slide, please. Thank you. What challenges do financial services providers face in serving the needs of their customers, customer segments that are difficult to reach, excluded, and marginalized? I've given an example of mine workers. They are underground. When they come out underground, they have to go home and rest. They are working shifts. They are not available at any time. So as a credit provider, do you ask people when is the best time to call them? No. You know, everyone is treated the same. It doesn't matter. If you call them once, I lost a complaint recently with a company. They said, we tried to reach you, we couldn't find you, the complaint is closed, bye-bye. And I've said, yeah, it's difficult. You know, they are in remote areas. How do you engage with them? But you do have to find strategies. High costs and low revenue, low usage, it is an issue. Lack of understanding of customer needs, motivations, and behavior. I mean, you can even look at behavior in terms of the types of complaints that you receive, who is defaulting more than the other, male or female, age, and so on. Sometimes the data, you don't have to have a lot of data. You just have to pay attention in terms of what is happening in your own organizations. What type of complaints are predominant in your organization? What are you doing with that information? Because that is data. That is telling you something about your product or your internal processes in terms of how customers are receiving and understanding them. Lack of capacity to design and deliver customer-focused solutions. Like I say, sometimes you don't need a lot of money. You just have to be like me, like Mahauta, and love what you're doing and love your customers and make sure that you service them. You don't have to even pay consultants. You just have to have a certain culture within the organization. But you know, if you have to do it on a massive scale, it can be a challenge if you don't have money. Inability to create value for customers. And you don't suck value. You try and understand. You ask people, what do you need? How can I serve you better? Why don't you like this product? What kind of product would you like? I see that you went to the NCR, you contact us through email. In what channel of communication suits you better? Am I able to provide that channel? So really, we cannot put an excuse and say it's a money issue. It can, but you know, there are basic things that you can do to ensure that your company is customer centric. Inability to identify scalable business models. And like I said, you know, you have to start with what you have. Thank you. Next slide. And there are also many companies that get, like I've said, I think I've already spoken to this slide, that it begins with who you are as an individual. You know, any other thing can follow. Let's go to the next slide. It talks about benefits of customer centricity, and I think I've already mentioned that you become competitive, your business becomes sustainable, because people who are taking shortcuts, I know when I started in 2013 till today, there were people who were taking shortcuts. There are people who are now currently taking shortcuts, and they don't exist anymore. Because once you basic things like dealing properly with complaints that come through your office, those complaints will end up at the regulator. The regulator didn't have a problem with you, you were existing, and now they have to investigate you because they received complaints, things that you could have managed yourself internally. But because you are not customer focused or customer centric, your business will not be sustainable. You end up at the tribunal being deregistered, your license being taken away because you didn't bother. How do you retain? I mean, all of us who are sitting here have competitors. How do you ensure that you retain your customers, you attract new customers? It's because of value add. When I go to Woolworths, I'm a big fan of Woolworths. You know, it's like they think for you. I know that they know that holidays are coming. When you get there, you'll find nice things packaged for you to take with your car, with your kids. You know, it's already there. They think, it's winter and they need soup. You know, packaged soup, ready-made soup, because Mahauta is busy giving presentations at MFSA. The children need to eat. Woolies provides for that, you know, and I think other retailers have now caught up. So you in the credit space, what are you doing to understand the needs of your customers? Besides the NCA rules, what can you do? Guys, there are things that you can do. So the fact that, you know, you are just complying and that's it. No. So that there are benefits. You are able to retain, you are able to get return businesses. And I'm dead sure that your default levels will go down. We are seeing credit customers being given wrong credit products. If I come to you and apply, I said, I want a personal loan, it's a personal loan. But when we sit with them, we make them understand, but no, maybe you didn't need a personal loan. Maybe you needed car finance, and car finance, you know, the interest rate is a bit. So no, what we are doing, we are just chasing paper and not making sure that the business that we are writing is sustainable for the customer. So there are benefits to being customer centric. Of course, you comply, because now even in terms of the laws, it is being written into law that we need to be customer centric. Next slide, please. And I think I've already spoken to this. And I mean, if you look at now the new conduct for banks standards, it requires you the treating customer fairly, some of the National Credit Act rules, but I think the Financial Sector Regulatory Act is really being very specific. And all of us would remember that the Financial Sector Regulatory Act applies to all of us, even though we are regulated by the National Credit Act. It does say that they are regulating your activity, not in terms of your license. So if you are engaging in certain activities that in the financial services sector, this act will apply to you. And here they are really driving the focus on making sure that your business is serving the customer's needs, not your own needs. Next slide, please. So when I looked at the Harvard Business Review, it does give you a model that helps you to maybe think about how you can implement customer centricity in your organization. It says operationalize customer centricity. And what does that mean? Like I said, the culture of the organization, what you are rewarding people for, your processes, your systems, your complaints handling process, your customer engagement channels, that through the whole chain of operation within your organization. It means you must operationalize it. It mustn't be something that you just talk about it and say we love our customers, but when I call your helpline, it's not working, or there's one agent who doesn't even know what the National Credit Act is all about or what they are talking about, or can't make decisions, can't help me. No, you have to wait for this one. Hire for customer orientation. Employ people who share the same values, customer centricity values, and who will fit in within the culture of the organization. It's very important when you interview people that when you bring them on board, that they will be able to engage with the customers in the way that you want and in line with the company culture. Compensation, I've said that, you know, what are we paying people for? A lot of us are paying people in terms of the number of credit agreements or debt cancelling numbers that they can sign on a particular day. And that is not a customer-centric approach. What behaviors are you rewarding? Are you only rewarding how many people they sign up? Or are you rewarding the fact that, you know, your customer came and they were able to help you? Are you punishing them for the number of complaints that end up at the NCR because they were not able to assist the customer? They dismissed the customer. Are you dealing with that from a performance management perspective? So that's what it means. Once you have your customer centricity policy, everybody in that organization must live it, and it must be linked to their performance and their rewards. So ask yourself, what are you rewarding? What are you rewarding? It's very important because it also drives the behavior of your employees. And if you are rewarding the wrong things, it will get you into trouble. Link employee culture to customer outcomes, facilitate direct interaction with customers. Do that. And I know, and a lot of us here are small, and to a large extent, we are able to do that. Get out from your beautiful office and actually talk to people who are coming into your organization. Don't let only your agents be the ones that are interacting with your customers. Get down on the ground, visit some of the areas and see what is happening, because that will help you to come up with products that will suit them. Democratize customer insights just means that share information, because sometimes we leave the marketing department and they are the ones who understand all these things. Everyone else in the organization does not understand these insights. They don't have access to the information. So share the information so that everyone in the organization, if there are issues at the NCR, don't just go to the compliance department. Everyone must sit down around the table and say, guys, we are getting a lot of complaints going to the NCR. These are the numbers. What are we going to do about them? This needs to stop because it threatens your business and your business license. And it also gives you a bad name, because we know that a lot of customers come to us because of word of mouth. If you are giving value, somebody will tell someone else to say, you know, that credit provider, they are the best. If you want a loan, go there. How many people are recommending you? Next slide, please. In conclusion, when customers trust financial services providers to solve real life challenges and dissolve pain points. What are the pain points of your customers? We criticize unregistered machinists, but unregistered mashonisas are giving a service where there is a gap. I always say, as Magauta, when I get into financial trouble, I have an overdraft. If I'm sitting in Tembisa, I don't have, I have a low-level bank account, I don't have an overdraft. If I want quick access to money, I will definitely go to a mashonisa. Whether they are registered or not is not my problem. It's the problem of the NCR. And we've seen that when our clients come back to us and say, I cannot pay a mashonisa. And we ask them, do you want us to report them to the NCR? They say, no, Osmahauta, just tell him I can't pay him this month. I'll pay him next month. And please don't tell the NCR his name because he's helping me. I can just go and knock on his door and he will give me the money. So what I see in the industry, we are saying, these people are bad, but what are we doing? Because they are responding to a demand that will not go there. So from a customer centricity point of view, once we understand that this demand will not go away, what are we as credit providers, you as credit providers doing to ensure that you are able to service your client for those needs, pain points, real life situations? In a world where low-income customers make little use of financial services, providing value is the missing piece. So I think I can speak the whole day, but guys, customer centricity is important. It basically means know your customer, know what their issues are, service those needs, make sure that the people in your organization live that culture and the customer is key. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Magauta. We really did enjoy that presentation. And I think, customer centricity, looking at your customer after their needs is so important. Thank you very, very much, Magauta. Next, we have Kabelo Teme. Kabelo is from the Credit Ombud. She has joined the Credit Ombud in 2009. She has been appointed as the communication liaison in 2020. The core focus is consumer education, media activities, outreach initiatives, and stakeholder engagement. She's also a member at the Consumer Protection Forum at the National Consumer Financial Education Committee. Welcome, Kabelo. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Leonie. And honestly, it is quite a privilege to be presenting today. So as Leonie mentioned, I am Kabelo Teme from the Credit Ombud, and I am the communications liaison, and my core function really, I think that I will speak mainly, especially on the fact that when I am out doing consumer awareness programs and I'm doing consumer education, I mean, I am on the ground and listening to what consumers are actually complaining about, what their pain points, as Magauta said, are actually. And so I'm basically mainly going to speak on that, and to also give a bit of an overview of what are the complaints and queries that we receive at the Credit Ombud, which credit providers need to be aware of. Now, firstly, just to give a quick background of the Credit Ombud, currently from the 1st of May 2020, the Credit Ombud became a voluntary non-statutory body, and it is recognized a recognized industry body ombud scheme, in terms of Section 194 of the Financial Sector Regulation Act. And initially, our recognition was from the Financial Services Ombud Scheme Council in 2006, and it was an ombud with jurisdiction in terms of the National Credit Act, which engages in the resolution of disputes arising within the non-bank credit industry and consumers. Now, previously, we only dealt with credit information queries, and that was pre-2006, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm lying. Yes, from 2006 until about, oh my goodness, I've got my years completely mixed up right now. But yes, we were dealing only with credit information disputes, and then we broadened our jurisdiction to also receive non-bank credit agreement disputes. And our mission statement, our mission as a Credit Ombud is that we will effectively resolve dispute between members of the credit industry and credit receivers, that would be your consumers and your businesses, with regards to credit and credit information matters. We act most importantly, my passion as an educator of the public in matters pertaining to the credit industry. And we will at all times act honestly, independently, and fairly, balancing the rights of all parties. So we are impartial, we are the middleman, we are basically the love guru, or yes, the love guru between the credit provider and the consumer. Consumer is not happy about the credit provider, they come to us and we say, let's sit down and talk about this and resolve it together. And then our jurisdiction, as I mentioned previously, is that we deal with credit information disputes, such as your non-bank credit providers, anybody who basically lists info on the credit bureaus. We will take in those disputes from the consumers and businesses. And when it comes to the non-bank credit, would be like your non-bank credit providers, your retail furniture, retail clothing, micro-lending, and as well as your non-bank vehicle finance and property finance. Our assistance is absolutely free to all consumers. So it's just basically a matter of picking up a phone and calling us, and we will be able to assist you as a consumer. The type of complaints that we deal with would be your overcharging of interest or fees, which we do normally get quite often. Prescription of debt, reckless lending, debt collection issues, fraud matters as well. And when it comes to emolument attachment orders, or as we call them, garnishing orders, and if at all anybody has been unfairly or incorrectly listed at the credit bureaus, they may approach our office and we will be able to assist them. Now, when I get to the common disputes, and this is where now, I think actually the major thing, because as a credit provider, you want to know exactly, as the Onboard, what are consumers complaining about? What is it that they do not understand? And I always say that as much as you are a credit provider, don't forget that you are also a consumer. So as I go through the presentation, also think about, if at all I was a consumer, how would I be, how would I want to be treated by a credit provider? It is also very important to note that we should not forget that we are also consumers as much as we are credit providers. So that also helps you in actually having to say, okay, if at all I was a consumer and I had a query, how would I want my query to be handled by my credit provider? So the common disputes and queries that we receive would be for reckless lending practices. This normally happens, and this I also explained while I was doing my double impact training. Now we all have double impact training. Double impact training is, just to quickly explain, is a training that I do, or the Credit Onboard does, for its members for free. So what we do is that we train your staff members about the credit industry. Mahauta mentioned in her presentation that how important it is that you get people who understand the credit industry and what they are doing. And you've got a passion, like I do. I've got a passion for actually educating consumers, because there's nothing worse than getting into an agreement and you actually don't understand what you just signed, but you just signed because you are desperate at that time as a consumer that I need this credit right now so that I can get out of the trouble that I'm in, or whatever the issue may be. But it's having an understanding of what you are getting yourself into that is mostly important, so that you can understand that should there be an issue, how do I then go and address it? So when it comes to reckless lending issues, like for instance, when a consumer is applying, I think that a lot of us, and I remember when I was even purchasing my vehicle, it was amazing how the guy who was assisting me insisted that I do not put down exactly how much I spend on a monthly basis, especially when it comes to groceries, transport, and all of that. I was shocked because I'm like, dude, you did see where I'm working, right? There's no way I could actually go and agree to just sign and put down whatever it is that you are asking me to do right now. But in reality, a lot of this has actually happened, and this has actually happened due to the fact that when I'm a consumer and a credit, and I go to a credit provider, and the sales representative says to me, you know what, just write down these numbers, or rather sum up exactly how much you spend, and then after that, so that you can actually just qualify and get your car. The excitement of, I'm gonna get my car, and especially when they tell you you can actually leave with it today. Hello, I want to be seen driving that car today. So I will say whatever it is that this person, but let's not forget the fact that the salesperson wants to get their commission. They are focused on getting their commission. So for them to actually say, no, don't write down the exact amounts. It is actually saying, no, I just want to get this sale. So you write down whatever it is. But let's not forget, when you do an affordability assessment, you are looking at the 3-month bank statement. You've got the salary slip. You've got to do a credit check at the credit bureaus. And number one, I always say that, I mean, you always have to think about your bank statement is a true reflection of how much you spend. As much as on the application, I as a consumer might write that, yes, I only spend about 1,000 Rand for my groceries each and every single month. My bank statement is going to say something different. So I always say to consumers, instead of falling into that, always think that at the end of the month, you are not going to spend the 1,000 Rand as you have written it on your application, but rather you are going to spend what you actually spend, the true reflection that if I spend 2,000 and 2,500 for my groceries, that's exactly what I'm going to spend at the end of the month. That means that that debt is now going to be a burden because you will think, oh my goodness, I actually can't afford to pay this debt. And then you realize, wait a minute, but this was actually reckless lending. So that's how it actually comes about, because when we do our investigations, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go to look at the bank statements and the application and see whether they actually correlate, these numbers actually correlate. And if they don't, then we'll be like, okay, fine. Clearly, it was reckless lending. You didn't do a proper assessment. An assessment means that you scrutinize all the numbers. And then also, when it comes to garnishee orders, the issues, we have mainly issues with tracers not explaining what consumers are signing and the exorbitant fees that are being charged on the garnishee orders. So mainly when consumers come and raise their complaints, I mean, that about garnishee orders, those are the issues that they have. There's also an issue when it comes to paid up letters. Consumers are not understanding that once like for instance, with the revolving accounts, such as your credit cards, your clothing retail accounts as well. If at all I pay up my entire debt, does not mean that automatically the account will be closed. Very important to explain to consumers that once they pay off the account, will you be, do you want to continue making use of the account? Do you want to close the account? And if at all that is if at all the consumer does not want to continue making use of the account, then the consumer needs to get a paid up letter as well as proof that the account has been closed, and to also update the credit profiles at the credit bureaus. This is something that most consumers honestly do not still understand to this day. And we try as much as possible when we are doing our consumer education to educate consumers about this, but it is also something that as credit providers, the credit providers need to be aware of. Now, when it comes to what I did here is that I also put in the queries. Now, we don't deal with debt counseling matters, disputes. Those we refer to the National Credit Regulator to deal with, but we get them a lot from consumers. Recently, I noticed that, because what we do is that we have a weekly meeting with a call center staff, and they will be the ones to tell to say, but most consumers right now are querying debt counseling issues. They've got queries when it comes to prescribed debts. They've got queries when it comes to credit information. But we want to actually understand what the trends are within the industry so that we can address them, and it makes it easier as well, so that we know exactly what it is that we need to attend to as an Onboard office, what it is that we need to educate on when it comes to credit matters. And that's how it actually led to our campaign with the MFSA. It made it so much easier because we knew exactly where to go, which areas to talk to when it comes to consumer education. And this really has helped a lot. So right now, I know that the major issue is debt counseling and prescribed debt. What happens when you've got a prescribed debt that is part of the debt counseling? And that is an issue that honestly we need to sit down and talk about with the credit Onboard staff. Now, the purpose of the MFSA and the Credit Onboard collaboration now, as Leonie explained, is that MFSA is the trusted voice of responsible microfinanciers in South Africa. So their vision is to ensure a sustainable microfinance industry. And the Credit Onboard enforces fairness and in credit and credit bureau matters. Both organizations, the major thing is to educate consumers and credit providers on how to build a healthy credit industry to better the relationship between the credit provider and the consumer. And to get basically, the purpose is to get the credit provider and the consumer to be on the same page. The one should not, I mean, when a consumer received their credit agreement, it shouldn't be that there are certain issues that a consumer does not understand, but they go ahead and sign anyway to say that I agree. In our double impact training, I always say to the staff members that I'm training, that remember that your signature at the end of, and every single time you initial each and every single page, it is stating that I understood and agree with whatever it is that is on this page or in this entire agreement. That is what your signature means. So if at all I'm signing, but as a consumer, I'm not quite sure that whether I understand or not what is written on this agreement, then I will go away with, yes, the product that I wanted, but I do not quite understand what is written on my contract. So when anything goes wrong, I don't even know where to begin to try and complain, or what the complaints procedure is. I will not understand that. But basically, it's also to create an understanding on the rights and responsibilities of both parties, not only for the consumers, but also for the credit providers. And so far in our collaboration, we have done about 4 campaigns already. We did one in May, which was about responsible lending, where we also did a webinar on responsible lending. In June, it was about paying your credit and credit facility, because we needed to actually make the consumer understand what and how you can actually pay your credit and credit facility. In July, because it was savings month, we had to address the savings matter, because the thing is, it's very important that when we do an assessment, I always say as a consumer, you need to do a self-assessment first at home. And when you do a self-assessment first at home, is you do your budget. Consumers, a lot of consumers, this is something that I think we take for granted. A lot of consumers still do not understand or know how to do a budget. And some people may think, but oh, come on, it's just doing this. And no, a lot of consumers still do not understand. And I always say that you cannot do your budget if you do not have your bank statement, because you need to see exactly what are your spending habits, because from your spending habits, you'll be able to know what is it that I can eliminate so that I can eventually start saving, if at all it is what I want to do. I think that every single person actually should be saving. And when I say every single person, it is also including the young kids as well, to say that they need to be taught how to save. So that is why it is very important to start teaching consumers about their spending habits, because their spending habits affect their credit habits as well, and how they actually pay their accounts. And currently we are running, our current campaign is about, as you can, we are in the Women's Month, and the theme for that is financial equality, women taking control of their finances. So we also have a webinar, as Leonie said, that will be addressing actually this issue. The value of the credit Onboard. Why is it even important for a credit provider to belong to the credit Onboard? And it has become an accepted principle all over the world that governments, financial businesses, as well as consumers benefit if consumers have confidence in the financial markets. One of the key factors in increasing consumer confidence is to provide accessible and user-friendly arrangements to resolve disputes. I think that all of us right now can say that at some point you have had an issue either with a credit provider or service provider. I had an issue with my cell phone provider where I got so frustrated because I've been trying to resolve this issue since February. And only when I mentioned the National Consumer Commission did they say, okay, now we really need to start assisting this consumer. But what was most frustrating is that I kept on requesting for a reference number for my query from the service provider, and they were not giving me my reference, because I was like, if I go to the NCC, I need to show that I have got a valid complaint, and therefore I can only do so if I've got a reference number. Now, as much as, yes, the issue eventually got resolved, but for the fact that it took so long and I had to come in and with the big guns and say, yes, I will take my query to the NCC if you don't assist me. And that's when they started trying to assist me. But even then I got frustrated that you are not listening, you are not hearing to what my complaint is. That honestly created more of the frustration. And each and every single time now, because of the bad experience I've had with this service provider, when somebody else asks me about which service provider should I go for, I will definitely say, rather don't go for this one, because I know that when you've got a complaint with them, they will not be able to assist you as efficiently as you would like. So obviously it left a very bad taste in my mouth, and because of that, their review from me will not be good. And we all know that word of mouth is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, marketing tool. Now, currently, as I explained in the beginning, is that the financial, currently in section 211 subsection 3 states that if a financial institution provides financial products and financial services, and there is a recognized industry Onboard scheme that provides for the resolution of complaints about financial products or financial services of that kind, the financial institution must be a member of that industry Onboard scheme. It's something that Leonie spoke to a lot, that and right now, basically, currently, as somebody who actually provides credit, you need to belong to an Onboard scheme. And Leonie obviously will assist if at all you have not become a member of the Credit Onboard. And as I said as well, we also are focused on training your staff members. That's why we have the double impact training. We want to train the staff members of credit providers to say that they at least know and understand from a point of view of being a consumer as well as a credit provider, that this is how I am meant to actually assist a consumer. When they're from the initial point of contact, when they come and apply for credit, this is what I need to actually do for them to understand what it is that they are signing or getting themselves into, so they know exactly what to expect in their agreement. The purpose of the Credit National Act, as we all might know, is that it is to promote and advance the social and economic welfare of South Africans. I always say that this should be the standpoint, basically, of anyone who wants to apply for credit, that they need to think twice, they need to think 3 times, they need to take that pre-quotation pre-agreement quotation home. And as my boss, Howard Gabriels, will always say that, take it home, drink a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and actually go through your agreement so that you can gain understanding. And I always say, do not go through the pre-quotation agreement with a glass of wine or whiskey or cognac. Or trust me, you are not going to understand anything if you are intoxicated in any form. So and this is what we actually need to do. You plan before you even go and apply for credit. Credit is not, as much as, yes, it is the purpose of credit is so that I get whatever goods or services that I need right now that I cannot afford right now, and I receive them now and start to pay for them later. That is the purpose. But it is also very important to plan for that, because credit is not free. It's not you get credit now and then after that you are not going to pay back. You're going to pay it back. And therefore you need to have a plan of how you're going to pay it back. If you can't afford it, then rather wait it out and then plan properly. There was also an example that my boss made, that if at all you're looking for a car, instead of going and apply for credit, rather save up for the vehicle that you want. Go and identify a vehicle that suits your needs and your pockets as well, and look at how much, calculate how much your monthly installment will be. Then start saving up for that vehicle, the amount of what the installment is actually going to be on a monthly basis for like 6 months. And then after 6 months, if you can see that, you know what, I'm actually coping with this installment, I will be able to buy this vehicle, I can afford to buy this vehicle. That means that the amount that you've actually saved up should be your deposit for your vehicle. And that's how we need to start planning around credit. We shouldn't just go and apply for credit, but rather think twice and say, okay, let me plan, let me do this. And I think that the other thing as well, and I say this because I'm also a consumer, that sometimes we don't want to do that. We don't want to sit down. We don't want to plan. I just want to get whatever it is that I want to get right now. And without taking into consideration, point number 2 is that the purpose is to promote a fair, transparent, competitive, sustainable, responsible, efficient, effective and accessible credit market industry. And I mean, there are many credit providers, I mean, obviously, and you need to weigh your options as a consumer to say, okay, which credit provider will actually be able to give me value for credit or value for my money. And if at all, I look at the needs, my needs, number one, if at all I see that, you know what, right now I cannot afford an expensive iPhone, but I need a functioning phone right now, then go for something that is much cheaper. Go to a service provider and ask them what they have available. And that way, as credit providers as well, you know exactly how to have products that will be actually that will be in rather to aid consumers. Yes, that's what I wanted to say, to aid consumers when they come and apply for credit, and to also protect consumers. The rights that are afforded to consumers by the NCA, which I think that a lot of us know, but I think that more than us knowing them in the credit industry, it should be something that also our consumers or our customers should know very well. We still have, again, I speak from a point of being an educator in the credit industry, that consumers still do not understand their rights. And maybe this is something that you can do as a credit provider, to say that, you know what, when they do come and apply for credit, or maybe you should have them up as a poster in your offices or on your website, so that consumers exactly know what it is, that they know that you're consumer centric, that you actually want them to know what their rights are. And that means that you also comply with those rights. We know about the right to apply for credit, protection against discrimination in respect of credit. When it comes to this, I remember when we were with the Black Sash in Pampierstad, and actually, yes, and a matter came up to say that no, but there is a certain credit provider that discriminates based on race. And this was also something that apparently there was a bank as well, that one of their employees leaked the information that when you are, because of race, people of color would receive more interest rates. And those are the things that you need to look at as a credit provider, that you ensure that everybody basically needs to be treated fairly within the credit industry. In South Africa and the whole world, in fact, there shouldn't be any discrimination of any form whatsoever. And you also, as a consumer, have the right to receive, for reasons for credit to being refused. Very important, because I think that a lot of consumers just take the fact that, okay, yes, it was declined, and then that's it. But we need, credit providers need to give us reasons as to why credit was being refused. And that is because, number one, if at all I know where my issue is, whether it's an affordability issue, or maybe it could be something that I can remedy at the credit bureaus. Maybe there's something reflecting negatively at the credit bureaus that I can remedy, so that I can come back and actually apply for credit. So that is why it is very important for credit providers to inform consumers as to why credit was has been refused. And then also the right to information in official language. I absolutely love this one, because it goes hand in hand with the right to information in plain and understandable language. If I'm going to receive a credit agreement and I've got absolutely no idea or understand any legal jargon that is written on there, I would honestly just turn around and go. But we know, okay, we know as consumers, we know as credit providers, a lot of us do not go through our agreements. And I actually want to encourage a lot of us that, please, when a customer comes and applies for credit, sit them down, take time for them to understand exactly what it is that they are getting themselves into. If they don't understand, and even when with the contracts as well, with the credit agreements as well, may use plain and understandable language, so that consumers do not feel like intimidated, because that's what it is. I think that when it comes to the financial industry overall, a lot of consumers do not have an understanding, because we use such big words that people do not understand. Yes, when it comes to certain policies, maybe I think that even when it comes to policies, we should use plain and understandable language, because I think that if you're going to decide something about me as a consumer, then I need to be able to understand what it is that you're saying. So if at all you don't use plain and understandable language, I don't think that you're talking to me. You may be talking to somebody else. I mean, if at all today I am Kabelo and the only language I possibly understand is Setswana, and you come and speak to me in another language that I do not understand, clearly I'm going to think you are not addressing me, you are not talking to me. So therefore, I will completely shut you out and not listen to you. And that is why it is always so important to actually put things in plain and understandable language. And consumers have got the right to receive documents. This is something that also we receive as the credit ombudsman as complaints. One of the complaints that we receive would be that consumers do not get their statements, or sometimes they'd be requesting for paid up letters and they do not receive them. So it's very important that you take down, obviously, consumer, when on the application, you ask the consumer then how would they like to receive the documents, through post, through email, or sometimes I know that even with SMSs, they receive their statements. Rather, always just ask and make sure that you do send those documents to consumers. And also the right to confidential treatment, as Leonie mentioned, Popia, very, very important, and the right to access and challenge credit records and information, something that we may all be aware of. Now, the responsibilities of credit providers, and I think that I've actually touched on these points, is to do a proper affordability assessment. Like I said, an assessment is going and looking at the bank statement versus the application of the consumer, because we understand consumer might also be desperate to get this credit, but you as a credit provider have got the responsibility as well to say that as much as you want this credit, I need to also do a proper affordability assessment, because tomorrow I do not want it to be that I gave you credit that you could not afford. It is protecting yourself as a credit provider and protecting the consumer as well. And to provide the consumer with adequate information, whatever information that they need, whether it is from, like I said, from the onset, from the time that the consumer applies for credit, they also need to know that if at all there's anything you're not happy with, this is our complaints line, contact us so that we can look at your complaint. If you're not happy with how we resolved your issue, you can go to an Onboard office to assist you. And then also to explain reasons to consumers when an application for credit has been denied. I've touched on that, and to ensure that you're compliant with the requirements of the NCA and FSRA. And also, now the NCA requires that credit providers must conduct an assessment for each consumer's ability to meet their obligations and take in reasonable steps to investigate and evaluate the consumers. Now, very important, like I said, a signature means the consumer understands and appreciates all of the obligations of the proposed agreement, and also to say that, yes, I'm understanding and I agree, and therefore should there be anything that goes on, then I know that I can go to my credit provider. So it is very, very important that as a credit provider, you ensure that the consumer understands, you ensure that the consumer is in agreement with everything on that agreement. Because if at all, really there is a complaint or a consumer does not understand something and they come to an Onboard office, we will definitely be asking, but what happened here? Why wasn't the consumer given this this in writing, or why wasn't it explained to the consumer 1, 2, 3? So it's very important that credit providers just ensure that they do explain it. Please train your staff members that when they are actually signing those credit agreements, it shouldn't be something that is done in haste, but rather take your time so that the consumer is has an understanding. So as I said, I've actually touched on this point. Now, what is a credit provider to do when a consumer approaches them, if at all when they're in financial difficulties? Be transparent. With consumers, we tell them communicate. We always say, the moment that you can see that, you know what, my finances are about to change, I can see that I will not be able to meet my monthly obligations, approach a credit provider and speak to them. This is what we say to consumers. We encourage them to speak up. And I remember that when we did a recording for our debt counseling campaign with Mahauta, and she was saying that, oh no, I love my credit providers because my credit providers and I have got a good relationship. We want to hear that from consumers. We want consumers to actually say that, oh no, my credit providers, I know that immediately when I've got issues, I approach them, I talk to them, and they are open to receive whatever query I may have or whatever problem I may have. So they are there to listen and to hear me out. They do not shut me out and then give me the runaround. The last thing that we want is for consumers to say that they are taking me from pillar to post, which is something that when I started the Credit Onboard, I used to hear a lot when I was at the call center. So what we say to credit providers, be transparent. It is advisable that as a credit provider, you should be honest and provide consumers with relief measures that are suitable for their needs. Again, I will quote Mahauta, who is a debt counselor, and said that debt counseling should actually be the last option for consumers because credit providers do have relief measures that can be suitable for their consumers. Consumers should just approach the credit providers, and credit providers should just be open to receive and be able to assist them. Now, in conclusion, these are our contact details as the Credit Onboard. Again, we remind you that we only take a case after the consumer has gotten a reference number, received a reference number from the credit provider to resolve their case within 20 working days. The credit consumers need to give the credit providers 20 working days to do the investigation. If at all, the credit provider comes back with a feedback, but the consumer is still not as happy with their outcome, they can come to our office, and we'll be able to assist with the query. And also, if at all, then credit provider takes longer than 20 working days to resolve the issue, consumers are open to come to our office and log the complaint. And again, I reiterate the fact that consumer education is a vital part of the work of the Credit Onboard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kabelo. I think a lot of information shared with our members. Thank you. I see we are way over time. If there is any pressing questions, you can put them into the chat box right now. Otherwise, you can email them to me at gm@mfsa.net. I'm going to send you a link now in the chat box as well, and I want you guys to please complete the survey if you can. Sunay, will you put in that link, please? Right, there it is. And then I want to thank everyone for attending this session. We really do appreciate your support. Please remember to take our quick survey. We want to thank our sponsors once again: ACPAS, African Unity, ALPS, ASPIS, NewPay and Delta, Groups Are Us, Experian Banking, Max, Realpay, SureCard, Universal, TransUnion and Sure Systems. We look forward to our next sessions and want to thank our speakers, Kabelo, Teme, thank you so much. Mahauta Pashlele, thank you so much. We really do appreciate the presentation and the information that was given to our members. I'm sorry we ran a little bit over time, so I see there is no pressing questions, and we look forward to our next sessions with you guys. Thank you once again for attending, and have a lovely day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.